So today I'd like to talk a little bit about the experience trap in the CISSP. So I've spent 30 years in IT and roles in leadership, managed outages, migrations, budget fights, and as a CISSP exam writer, I'm going to tell you a little something that might help you pass the exam. Um, so that 15 years, that 10 years, that 5 years of real world experience is exactly why you're failing your practice exams or the real exam. You're trying to solve problems as a director, right? You're a manager, but the exam wants you to solve problems as a CISSP. So today we're going to look at real world traps and how to escape them. So I like to call this the virtual screwdriver, right? In the real world, if a critical server goes down, you go and fix it, right? You grab a screwdriver, you remote into it, you get the backup. On the exam, if you fix the server before you check the policy, you're going to fail the question. Remember, I talked about this in one of my other videos, the flapjack rule, I like to call it. You know, what's the first thing you do when you make a flapjack? You know, and the plan. Right? So we just don't fix problems. We fix the underlying process that allowed the problem to happen. Right? So again, process over problems. You don't solve the problem, you solve the process. Right? The flapjack rule basically states the first thing that you do when you go to make a flapjack or a pancake is plan. Right? You don't immediately start doing that. You get all your ingredients, your pieces together. You don't flip the pancake until you have a spatula and you have the plan. So what is the budget narrative? In your job, you know exactly what your budget looks like, typically, right? You might say, we can't afford that MFA solution. On the exam, don't create a narrative, right? So that's a big one for the exam success is do not create a narrative. That isn't there. So if the question asks for a more secure way to authenticate, don't pick the cheap way because that's what your current company does. Pick the cost-effective way that meets the security requirement. Right? So think about that. We want to be good stewards of the money. We are also looking for the best solution. So going to look at spending versus the risk. The exam expects you to understand that as maturity increases, the spending of the target and risk areas increase and look those at the highest risk areas first, right? So we're always prioritizing the highest level risk. You are an advisor. You're in the advisor role. So in the real world, you might be the decision maker. On the exam, you are often advisor to senior management. You're going to hear that a lot. Senior management, advisor role. You're a consultant. You're not going to be fixing things. So your job is to provide the options and the risk assessment so they can make the decision. Technicians fix servers, managers fix the process, but the CISSP advises the business, right? So we're a consultant in this. So the advisor's toolkits, you want to analyze things, identify the risk, the likelihood, the business process, right? You want to look at those things, analyze, propose. You're going to offer solutions. Mitigate, transfer, accept, avoid. Think of your risk here. And your goal is to guide senior management, enable senior management to make the business decision based on the data, based on what you've provided. The golden hierarchy, like to call this, is a non-negotiable priority. If the answer choice saves a person's life, it's always a priority. So again, people are always the number one thing. People's safety. May not be true in the real world. We're here. This is the foundation of the code of ethics, and it is the exam mindset. So always, 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 people come first. People's safety comes first. So again, the checklist here, read like a lawyer, watch for always, never, only. When you're looking at the exam narrative trap, don't add details to a question that aren't there. I've seen that many times. I'm guilty of doing it myself sometimes. You add in a lot of narrative to a question that doesn't exist. Managers versus tech. If you're a tech, if it's a technical how-to, it's usually a distractor. Again, this is not about fixing the problem. fixing the process. You will walk in with experience. You have a real world filter. If you do not work at it because of habit, it's probably going to get you, you're probably going to get the question wrong. So where candidates fail, mindset errors. It's a big one. You got to go with a different mindset. Some knowledge gaps, there's a lot of material. You know, they say it's an inch deep and a mile wide. That can be very true. Time management, again, manage the time, watch what you're doing on the exam. You should be able to view those things, kind of watch what you're doing, know the pace, right? Any questions? Please post them down below in the comments. Be happy to answer them. Do you want to be right or do you want to be certified? That's the question you're going to need to ask yourself. All right, until next time.